Coming to you live inside Manhattan Beach Studios, I'm Victoria Dennis alongside Meg Burgdorf. Joining us today are neighbors to the north, Team Canada, Dearing and Sam Schachter.
Yeah, so you guys are based in Hermosa for a few weeks for this awesome training camp preparing for the Olympics. How did this partnership come together in the first place?
Well, Sam and I are born in the same year, but he's been playing for 16 years. I've been playing for 10. And we were competitors at first, and then there was an opportunity. This guy gave me a call, got me out of retirement, and got my shit together.
Well, and I think I've had a snippet on the interesting story. So what were the parameters of this partnership actually forming?
Yeah, well, I mean, Dan had taken a little bit of a brief hiatus from international sports or international volleyball. So a couple years leading up to the new Olympic cycle, I knew I'd sort of wanted to continue. So Dan was one of the top prospective athletes, blockers in Canada. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I know you're not playing right now, but when I'm ready to play with you, I want you to have some experience. I want you to go get some points on the international tour. So I asked him to travel for a year and sort of invest in the journey. And boy, did he ever, because he's here now.
Big turnaround.
And what's that
Big turnaround.
What's that investment like? Because there's a lot of guys out there that are trying to, get onto the pro tour, a lot of countries with new partnerships. What's that experience like?
Well, looking back at when I first was playing, when he was my opponent, I wasn't fully invested. My commitment level wasn't there. I would, slack in the gym. And then looking at, you get older, you get more mature, you get more wise, and then it's like, all right, well, I'm going to come back into this and go full throttle, full investment. And I knew it was going to be very hard. And then it just kept getting harder. You start making some sacrifices and you just all eyes on Paris. You just commit. So, big turnaround.
And it was a financial investment too, to kind
Definitely.
of spend that year preparing, getting points. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do.
No, it was a huge life turnaround. I had a good, solid career job, looking towards, things like starting a family, like owning a home, being in one spot, and then going back to traveling. It was a big change, but how could I give up a second shot when the best player in the country gives me a phone call? So.
That's amazing. So you're training here in Hermosa, new coach this year. Tell us how that relationship and this training camp has been going for you guys.
It's been going.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. He's created a totally new culture for our team, and he's an extremely hard worker, and he's obviously coached at a super high level, coached several different federations, so he has a wealth of experience to draw from. But I mean, it's fun because we just get to buy into this insane work hard, train hard mindset, but also at the same time, he's just a fun guy, and we can sort of flip the switch and off the court enjoy some time with him, which is like, rare for some teams to be able to sort of have both sides of that and really learn from him both on and off the court. But no, we're huge Vetsko fans.
Yeah.
Vetkov, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah,
He's a man of many nations, Sergeant, as we call him.
Yeah. And he is the Surge, definitely, originally from Serbia. So it's interesting to see how coaches kind of travel around too, and part of your federation and setup. What's that like in comparison to the rest of, the world and your experience working with Team Canada? I know you spend a lot of time in the United States and traveling on the world tour. What's Team Canada, the federation, living in Canada because it's so vast? How does that work?
Yeah, main reason why we're here and we decide to leave the cold Toronto during the winters is we have a home base, which is in Toronto, and players from out west and Vancouver or anywhere throughout Canada come to that home ground. And during the winter, we train indoors, and then as soon as possible, we try to get outside and join our friends from the south. And all teams will try to get outside as quick as you can, as the game is completely different from inside to outside. So. We have a few Canadian teams down here that are doing the same thing. So if we can face the top U.S. teams here to prepare ourselves for the season, then we will do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. Like, we're a centralized program, so very similar to countries like Germany and like a lot of Europeans have that sort of base because of the winter elements. You sort of need to have an indoor facility, and federations tend to like to have control over their teams. So they ask them, Poland to train in one spot. A lot of the teams train with each other, versus other countries such as USA, Brazil, where you have multiple opportunities to train all over the country, so it's harder to centralize. And so it's like that's sort of the skeletal structure of our system. And then we have like a unique sort of carding system, like the way that we're funded. We don't have military funding like some of the European countries do. So a lot of our funding comes from our government, Sport Canada, and then there's like development levels and senior levels, and those are usually like objective results that you have to achieve to sort of get those levels of funding. And then it's sort of easy to enter, but it's hard to get up into sort of like the higher echelons of the funding. Whereas in the States, you guys have a very clear ranking system, internal ranking system. So there's no objective results. You're basically competing amongst each other. And Europe has a completely different funding system, from my understanding, and different resources and ways that they sort of support their athletes.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the culture of your team specifically, the two of you or three with coach, but what makes it so unique, pushing forward to Paris? Is the team vibe the same on the court as off the court? Is it different? Are they synonymous? What's going on?
As coach would say, if we do our stuff, if we work hard on the court, in the gym, then we can enjoy life afterwards. Like, we have to give 100% work ethic, and especially our presence needs to be invested in the sand and in the gym and in our recovery. And he's with us all the time, and he sees that. He even joins us in our gym session. So knowing that all the time we spend with each other, our relationship on the court with that level of commitment, we can then transfer like a switch to off the court and enjoy each other's company, knowing that we're a team, we're a cocoon, we're all working together. So the standard is high, and we wouldn't change it at all. We want his crazy high standard. And then if we do our job very well, then we connect even more as like a team, which is really nice.
We have Master Chef over here.
That's right.
So in the kitchen as well, making dinners. I mean, how does that kind of transfer over on the road? Bringing in food and meals and traveling and preparing in different countries.
Yeah, I mean, it's a critical part of any athlete's prep is being able to sort of eat well on the road, and I think we do our best, and we often, grocery shop together. Hey, what do you want to eat tonight? And it's kind of, it's a reflection of how we get along so well off the court, which is also sort of rare in our profession, especially in Canada when there's such a small pool of athletes. It's unusual that you're like a very perfect match socially. Oh my God, it's so good. It's unusual that you're such like exactly, that you're such like a social match off the court, and it sort of makes things a lot easier. So, but back to the nutrition thing, yeah, for sure. We have similar tastes, and it just makes things easy. And then we have our roles off the court too, where I'm like a little more of the cooking guy. He's more like the prep and cleanup guy, and sort of like we're lucky. It's good.
And you have a really cool sponsor. Tell us about that.
We have multiple sponsors. We're very grateful for our community. They help us out a lot. Our sponsors help us out financially, but they're also so invested within their community. We have Herbaland gummies that have been with us for the last 2 years. What a perfect match for them too. They electrolytes, multivitamins, joint care, kind of everything kind of an athlete needs. And especially when we're on the road, sometimes you can't go to a certain grocery store that's so world-renowned. You got to eat within your suitcase, and we're able to have those supplements at hand whenever we want. We have another company called Sandex that is basically grounding. They want you and people to be in the sand all the time, one with the earth, doing like movement in the sand, like yoga in the sand. So every sponsor that we have is a complete reflection of what we already do, and we got very lucky with that. It's not like we have Coca-Cola. Even though the funding would be great, I'm not going to drink that every day.
Coach might.
He would love that. So we should definitely try
Coca-Cola. We're not saying we won't take Coca-Cola. We'll take Coca-Cola.
Yeah, so a big part of our journey and the financial aid that we have from them, we're so grateful for our sponsors. So thank you for asking about them.
Yeah.
What is something unique about your prep and routine for game day? I mean, we talked about the food. Everybody eats good food, we go through the flow movements, but what's something that's like weird that you do on game day or maybe the night before?
I wouldn't say we do anything weird.
Yeah.
We have like a standard culture and like an accountability that we make sure that we stay onto, like 30 minutes before a match. We can only speak between us. If we say hi, it has to be 5 seconds. Hello, hello, back to our prep. We have our headphones in to get us locked in. I'm not really superstitious. There's nothing weird there. Like I gotta wear a certain pair of briefs or boxers to go in. But like we have an accountability that we need to do. We're showing up to work and to perform, and we remind each other every now and then to be like, hey, this is what we should do. We should do. But other than that, no, nothing weird. I think there's definitely more weird things when it comes to our personalities and how much time we spend on the road together. We have funny stories, but when it comes to routine, we try to remain pretty professional.
Any place in the South Bay that you're dying to get to when you land here?
I love Burrito Brothers.
Yeah.
I do. I've been there like 4 times, and I'll say, Sam, you want to go to Burrito Brothers? He's like, it's good, but let's try something else. I'm like, okay.
Heartbroken. No, I'm like a Just Poke guy.
Yeah.
Love
Just
the
poke,
Yeah.
so good.
It's the spot. I mean, you can't beat it. Like, we're by the ocean, right? Like in Toronto, we're sort of landlocked, so we don't get the same quality as it is here. It's the best.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so I want to hear kind of what your experience is on the World Tour. Favorite places to play, best fans, worst travel experience. I want to hear.
I've
these
answered
things.
right. Boom, boom, boom. Best play for me was Lucerne, Switzerland. Best fans, Mexico, Tlaxcala, World Champs, and even the tournament before. You leave the court and be like, oh, we play for Team Canada. Like, we're not the best in the world, but they treat you like you're just this superhero. So best fans. And it doesn't take away from any country when it comes to like the worst experience, because you can always find a pocket somewhere where something just poor will happen. You miss a flight, or an Uber driver will be a little, weird. But there was this one time where we had to catch a flight in the Philippines this past year, end of last year, and nothing was open. We couldn't find a single place to eat, and we're like looking at each other like, what should we do? We tried to order just like a healthy pizza, canceled. Like 40 minutes into their order, we're super hungry. We ended up going to KFC, and it was my second time ever having KFC, and it was a hard decision. It was, do I eat this or do I not eat this and
Starve.
We were just like, we're at a bars. It was a long, like 4-week trip, and yeah, so that was a tough experience. It's like, do I eat food that's not the best for you, or do I not eat at all and then suffer? So.
And how was that decision in the end with KFC?
A lot of time was spent on the toilet.
Oh no! Oh no!
But that's
Had
okay.
to ask.
That is okay.
I did. I wanted the other answer, but we got the truth, and I respect that.
Which actually happens on the road a
It
lot
does.
for athletes.
It's
It does.
yeah,
And
big
it's
time.
something that's very scary and real that I think we don't talk about enough.
Correct.
How you manage on the road illnesses and shortcomings with food, because it is really can be a big thing.
We do pack bars and we have our supplements, Herbaland, but sometimes it's hard. Like you just eat something that's a little bit outside of what you're used to within North America or other foods, and you have to pound your electrolytes right away because you're gonna lose it all. But no, it's you definitely
Pepto-Bismol.
need yes.
You gotta travel
We
with it.
definitely have a supplement bag that we both use to help each other go through those, because you gotta have energy no matter what. So yeah.
Okay, favorite place to play?
Favorite place to play? I would say I really liked Italy. That was like one of my favorite places to play, simply because I'm a big food guy, and like that's my favorite cuisine as well. So, pizza, pasta, the ultimate, and it was at World Champs too, so that doesn't hurt. The fans there were awesome. Favorite best fans would be Klagenfurt or Vienna. Like Austria is like volleyball is the big thing there, so the fans there are wild, and the crowd knows like all the dances, and it's sort of like going to a soccer match, like a football match out in Europe. So that's always really cool. And then worst travel experience was when I first started traveling. I was with my old partner Josh Binstock, and we were like had this crazy long flight that we were supposed to do to China or something, and we were like trying to get on the right time zone, so we took a bunch of melatonin. And he was like super hardcore with supplements, so he would have this liquid melatonin that he was like, okay, Sam, we're gonna take like triple the normal amount, put it under your tongue, let it dissolve, or let it sort of like absorb into your system, and then swallow it after 5 minutes. So like, we're all settled into the plane. The melatonin goes in under the tongue, and we're like, okay. We look at each other like, swallow it, and then no more than 30 seconds later, the pilot gets onto the PA, goes, there's something wrong with the plane. Everyone's gonna have to deboard, and you're gonna have to catch a new flight in like 3 hours. So we look at each other with horror because we just took like 50 milligrams of melatonin. And I was a zombie. I literally don't remember the next 2 hours. It was horrible. It was horrible.
There's no way of coming back from that one.
No.
Did you catch that next flight, or did you?
I don't know. I must have. I was like delirious.
So I want to spend some time talking about the men's field in this Olympic preparation, because there's at least the top 40 teams, or in any given day, a men's team can win it. So what do you see with the style of men's teams out there? I know we have the spread offense, the faster, offensive spread happening, the on-2 game. But what are some different things you're seeing and feeling as professional athletes, even in the last 6 months? What's changed? What's new? What are you looking for? What are you training?
The men's game, we're powerful. We jump well. It's becoming more of a hit, and shoot less. Everyone has vision. Everyone has rhythm. Passing is becoming even greater. Now the second ball is a threat. And if a team is in system, good luck. So trying to up the service game so that if it's a good pass, do I stick to the 2 ball, or do you just completely eliminate it and set yourself up as a blocker? With this new 2 game, it's definitely harder as a blocker to kind of identify what to take away, what to give up. Do you commit here? Do you commit there? But with power and that spreading of the offense, it's causing, the game to be faster. And you have to make quicker decisions.
And that's really interesting from a blocker's perspective, and I'll come to you for defense. But what are you training? What are you seeing? When do you stay and block? When do you bail on the 2? What are some of the things that you have learned? Because everybody's out there trying it. Mm-hmm. And some of the younger guys are going, well, I don't know how to really defend it. So from a blocker's perspective, what are some things that have helped you as this game is rapidly changing?
Lots of work with coach, watching video. It's like you'll have an opportunity to face a team that does run a 2 ball very well. But then if you film it and you watch it over and over and over again, you start picking up on little cues like, oh, I shouldn't have committed to that 2 ball. They weren't in system. I should have just got to my attacker on the 3rd contact and put up a more efficient block for myself and for Sam. So a lot of video work and watching to see, when do you take the cue away? Is it our fault because our serve was too soft? Or we have to take more risk from the service line to get them a bit more out of system. But yeah, if you don't serve aggressive or very tactically smart, they'll open up that court for the 2 ball to be a threat, and the ball's crossing from one side of the antenna to the other. And I don't care how fast you are as a blocker, you can't take away both.
Well, that was my next question. Is swing blocking going to start to feature?
That'll be interesting.
You
know what? If we looked 2 years ago before the Swedes, would you think we could do that? No. The game is evolutionizing. So the answer is it could happen. There could be a blocker out there like Mole did, like Dalhauser did, that could evolutionize a new technique, and it works. So you never know.
All right, from the defensive perspective.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the 2 ball has complicated things, to say the least. It certainly creates a more of a strain defensively because the blockers are being dragged all over the place, and as a defender, what you do is dictated by what your blocker is able to do in front of you. So the blocker, if they choose to, commit to a 2 ball, how do you protect the spread set? How do you also play outside of the block, because they're only blocking sections of the court? But having sort of played against that style, quite a bit, and having coaches who can provide really effective scouting reports, you find that when it comes to that 2 ball, if you can serve relatively effectively, the attacks begin to become patterned. So it's more of a predictable attack versus a 3rd contact, which is sort of way more fanned of the court. You can have so many different things, hard-driven shooting all over the court, whereas the 2 ball, especially when there's pressure, it sort of limits options. And some teams, maybe not the Swedes, but teams who are trying to add it to their game without as much effectiveness, try and force a square into a round, a square peg into a round hole. So it's not always working, and they sort of force some errors. So you're looking to take advantage of teams that way who are trying to force it a little too much. But I mean, it's interesting seeing the game progress over the past few years, where the old era was more of an up and down big man era, where there was a priority on big blocking. Like Semenov was super effective, Nikolai, these guys who, not that they don't move as well, but you have a new era of blockers coming in who are a little shorter, maybe a little more dynamic, and they can handle the strains of the spread offense a little better. So I think that's going to sort of come back into style, as like the smaller, more dynamic teams, maybe even like a Herrera-Guevara split blocking style where you don't have a blocker having to run up to the net, deal with the two ball, no two ball, okay, I'm going to go outside and block. It's an exhausting brand of play. So yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes. I mean, it's evolving so quickly, and you can see how skilled everyone is on tour, and all sizes are trying the two ball now, just because they can develop the ball control, and they teach so young now. So the Swedish guys are like, what, 21, 22? Like, I don't even know if they're that old. And they're looking like complete vets out there, just the way that they've developed their own game. And they said, screw the status quo, we're going to do our own thing. And then everyone's like, wow, they can do that, we'll adapt. And everyone's sort of copycatting them. Yeah, so I mean, who knows what's next? I used to think there's no way people are going to be jump setting in the beach. How can you do that? The surface is so unstable, and they're figuring it out.
So talking about serve receive, of course, being in system, you have to be ready for that on-two ball. But the serve and pass battle, classic volleyball, right? So for you guys, it depends per team that you play. But on the men's side, the ace to error ratio is a little bit more than on the women's, because you guys are driving it. Well, the girls now, like, we're top spinning as well, and
and
driving it.
And more hand setting too.
And more hand setting, which is awesome. But I will say on the men's side, the ace to error is a little bit higher percentage.
Yeah. There's more risk taken, because if you don't disrupt from the service line, I think you're kind of sitting with a point for them.
So with that being said, what's the mindset at the service line when you go back to serve?
Be aggressive. Serving is the only skill that kind of only results on you. So Sam and I have even developed a new system where it's like, go back there, do your thing. I trust you, go back there. Like, yeah, we have a set call just in case, but in a match, we already have our video and our strategy, but you go back there, you be aggressive. If you miss while being aggressive, great job. But we call it a pufta, meaning it's not, there's no intent to be aggressive. There's no intent to get the ball to go right over the net. It's like a free ball. And when teams are this big, this powerful, and now running this quick offense, like you said earlier, Megan, they're gonna score. Yeah. So you got to go back there and put in a tough serve. And if they pass well, good job. But go back there with an intent to be aggressive.
So who's the biggest rivals for you guys?
Rivals
in this Olympic chase?
The 4 teams that are ahead of us right now in the Olympic ranking.
And where do you guys stand currently?
We're 21st. We're 21st. We have some work to do. Work hard, go out there, perform. But the 4 teams ahead of us, we have their eyes on them just as much as we have our eyes on Paris.
Yeah.
And Trevor.
I was waiting for that to come out. It was. I do know you guys had a funny travel story to share with us, maybe 2 of them.
Yeah. We spent so much time on the road together that exhausting days, funny days, long days, short days. I'm a pretty interesting sleeper. Sam?
Let me start at the beginning. Most people snore when they sleep, like when they're like, really tired or they're congested. Dan doesn't snore, Dan moans.
I do.
So I call him Moaning Myrtle. And it's like, whatever, he's a big moaner. so we're on and he also sleeps sort of like a bird, so he needs to have like one of his arms off to the side and then like that. And when he can't sleep for whatever reason, he'll go like toe to head, so he'll like completely flip. And in Europe, you're usually like pretty close side by side in these beds, so we like try and wedge it as far as possible, but sometimes it's not that much. So I guess one night Dan was having trouble sleeping, so he goes head to toe, but he's like, his head is closer to my bed, and I sleep normally, like I'm a normal human. And one night I was sleeping and I was just like with my foot, because it's like these single beds, sort of off the side, and I start feeling something warm with my foot, and I'm like touching, and I'm like feeling something warm, so I'm going after it more, and then Dan.
So I'm like half asleep because I don't sleep well. I'm tossing and turning, but I fell asleep normally, but then I woke up a few times. So I'm like, let me just flip. So I had the side table, but then I ended up taking my backpack and putting it on the end of the bed so I could still rest my elbow up there. And at first, I'm like, yeah, I feel something, but I'm so out of it. And then I feel the intention of like the curiosity of his foot being like, what is this? So, and then I'm like, I'm wide awake now. And it's not like, oh, like a little rub. It's like, what kind of fruit is this? So I poke my head up and I'm like, are you good, bro? And I was like, mad? And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Moves his foot aside, and then whatever, I go back to sleep. He goes back to sleep when we wake up, and we just look at each other and we're like,
that was so weird. So weird in the morning.
Team bonding at its
Team bonding,
finest.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And again, just there's techniques to it too. If I'm moaning too loud, then he kind of has to get up a little bit, give me a little nudge, and then I'll stop doing it. But yeah, he has his like mask and headset on, and I have my mask and earplugs. But I've actually learned from April Ross, because she used to travel with a bit of a comforter spread. She would travel, so I have certain perks that I have to make sure I can
Silk
sleep well.
pillowcase.
I don't bring a silk pillowcase, but I have an eye mask. I have a little mini fan. I like the noise of a fan not blowing on me but across, and it helps me get to sleep. But yeah, we're a couple.
I have one last thing that I kind of want to just hear your thoughts on. So there's a lot of
Me
buzz. Okay, perfect. I'll go first then.
Okay.
There's a lot of buzz going on about fours and different structures of tours. I mean, the AVP has rolled out a new league structure. We don't know if it's for domestic or international athletes or partnerships and pairs. But what are your guys' thoughts on fours, international stuff, some new ideas?
I think that will help with the growth of the game. Anything that can help beach volleyball and the growth of it, getting another sport, or like it would be considered another sport, just like swimming. There's so many different medals for backstroke, front crawl, butterfly. Twos, fours. It creates more time in the sand for everybody. If you're trying to master the 2 game, master the 4 game. There's more people to film, different personalities. It doesn't have to be one blocker. It could be 3 defenders, 1 blocker, 3 blockers, 1 defender. Just thinking of that, I think the excitement of the game, and it's in between indoor and beach. It's literally in between 4 players. I think it's going to help the game if that ever happens. And if the 4s game, they give a wild card for us to join, for Canada to come, we'll be there.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept, right? Because it's, like Dan said, it's like a new discipline of beach, which they already tried snow volleyball. I know they've experimented with 4s internationally a little bit, but it sort of solves one of the bigger problems in beach, which you sort of have a limited number of players on the court and you have no substitutions. So if someone gets hurt, the game is over. And in 4s, you don't necessarily have that problem, because when they've experimented, I think they travel 6 players. So it sort of gives you different lineups. It sort of gives you a little bit of a bigger team that you can work in. And yeah, I think it caters to a lot of different countries. I think it will support the pro game. It will support all the way down to grassroots.
As our neighbors to the north, representing Team Canada, putting back on that jersey around the world, what does it mean to represent Team Canada?
At first, when I first started coming back, I did feel some pressure, like feeling like I have to perform to keep the high standard for everyone that's supported us, everyone that's been watching us and has been reaching out. But you go out there, and if you play with your heart, people see that and people know that. And it's not about the destination. They're with us through the whole journey. So whether we win or whether we lose, we have our country behind us all the way. And we're so happy to have that feeling, knowing that when we go out there and wear the red and white, that they're with us the entire time. So honored.
Said it.
Bingo. Exactly.
Bingo?
I mean,
Bada bing.
Yeah.
Bongo.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
was
And good luck in
awesome.
Doha. So
Yeah.
you can catch you guys next, heading to Doha in a matter of 5 days, 6
Correct.
days or so.
Correct.
Yep.
Wheels up.
Wheels
Here you
up.
go.
Let's
Home
go.
stretch.
Let's go.
There
Do
you
or die
go.
time. Yep.
Yep, absolutely. Well, good luck on
Thank
the
you.
journey.
Yeah.
Excited
Thanks.
to follow along.
Thank
And-
you for having us.
Yeah. Come
Mhm.
on down anytime you're in the South Bay. Bring that poke with you and some brothers.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Well, until next time, guys, make sure to like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. More volleyball content coming at you, all the gritty nitty. Until next time, for Make Burgdorf, I'm Victoria Dennis. Stay gritty out there.
Make that.